Hi, my name is Tony and welcome to Sermon in Small Bites. This week we had a discussion about what it takes to change. Really, the whole point of this last couple of weeks in our sermon series has been about becoming like Jesus, doing as Jesus did, and also spending more time with Him. We found that our longing and our hearts, our desires are to be disciples, to be apprentices. And really, if you want to be an apprentice, that is what your life is focused in on. It's focused on being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus, and doing as He did. But the problem is that as you hear those goals, you can't just change. Change doesn't work like that, and you know that. If you've ever tried to stop biting your nails or try to go on a diet, you know that it's actually quite difficult to enact any change in your life. It's certainly difficult to enact transformation. But that is what God is after. If you read Romans chapter 12, you find the Apostle Paul speaking, and he says this, do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And if you're familiar with the scriptures, you know this is one of the most famous passages in the scripture because it speaks to the very essence of what God is after in the life of men and women who claim to be apprentices. Are we being transformed? And so, with those three goals in mind, we started to look at what it means, or rather, we started to look at how we change, how we transform. And so we really broke it down into three things. We said, hey, we are changed by having community around us, we are changed by the teachings that we listen to, and we are changed by the practices that we put into place. And this week, our focus was on community. Community is so important for our world because our world is quite lonely, wouldn't you agree? There was a recent poll done, or a recent study done of Americans who said that 67% of Americans said that they were lonely. Most of us feel, especially with the global pandemic and with the coronavirus shutdowns and all that stuff, that we just don't really have a sense of community. We have a lot of connectivity, but not a lot of community. And connectivity and community are certainly not the same thing. And so how do we change with community? Well, Jesus masterfully decided to, when He started His ministry, to pull people from all different walks of life. He pulls the Jewish people from the town of Galilee, Simon and his brother Andrew, and James and John, and He pulls them into community with people like Matthew the tax collector, or with Simon the zealot. If you know anything about the Bible, you know that those three groups really did not like each other, and yet God brings them all into community, I believe, to prove a point that community becomes transformative when it's messy. That community becomes transformative when it's diverse. Romans chapter 12 and 1 Corinthians 12 teach this point, that we are all not made the same, but in fact we're made to be different so that as we're rubbing against each other, we will be refined. The proverb says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That's the whole idea. That though we are different, God brings us into community to connect, to grasp each other's differences, and then to be changed by those things. And so our practice for this week, and I want to encourage you to do it, is to find a community. And maybe you're all new to this whole idea, but the best first step for you would be to find a local church or find a good group around you and go, hey, I want to figure out how to be an apprentice of Jesus. I want to figure out how to be a follower of Jesus. Would you join me on that journey? We believe that community is transformative, and community is what God had in mind. See you next week.